And here we go. So here it is. This is what we were talking about just recently when we're looking at the precipitation for the state for the year. So starting January 1st, and you can see that some locations are doing okay. So when you see those locations that are in the green portions of the map, a little bit above average, the precipitation that's expected from January 1st through March 19th. So present period of time mostly. And you can see some of the locations that are a little bit yellow that are a little bit below average. So far the precipitation for this year has been a little bit wetter for most of the state. You can see Mojave County, a little bit of areas along the rim, not what we want to see at this point in time, but we'll take whatever precipitation we might be able to get with this next event that's coming up. So here we go with looking at what our snow water equivalent has looked like across the state. So we're happy to have been able to get a lot of that March precipitation in the form of snow. You can see that little blip that's down there on the map on that chart where it's showing you 2024. We blipped up a little bit again with our snow water equivalent. So that's a great thing. We're above median levels at 150% statewide right now. You can see that the individual basins, Salt Basin, Verde Basin, Little Colorado Basin, all above median amounts. So that's a very good thing, and it's always welcome. Still, you can see that it's not as wet as it was last year. So that's important to understand as we start moving into the more active wildfire season. We start to dry out and we start to get warmer, and that's coming up here pretty soon. When we're looking at February, so for most of the past several months and what we've been seeing in February, it's been much warmer than normal. And that's across most of the state. You can see that Gila and Yavapai counties kind of squeaked through with more average conditions. But statewide, this was the 35th warmest February on record, going back 130 years. And then how we stand with our precipitation for February, it was a bit wetter than normal. And it ended up being the 35th wettest February on record for the state. You know, our office actually just published a blog post that might be interesting to read if you have time. It talks about the wettest February on record for the state, which actually happened in 1905. You may know about the largest flood ever measured on the Salt River. That happened in 1891. But 1905 was actually wetter than 1891. 1905 is also when the Gila River broke through the Colorado River and started filling the Salton Sea. So if you have time, go check out that blog post. It's on the website. Now, where we stand for the water year. So remember, the water year runs from October 1st through September 30th, and our water year still remains warmer, and it's kind of average to drier than normal. This past October to February has been the 7th warmest October to February on record. It's been the 63rd driest October to February, so just a bit drier than normal. You can see that the central and northern counties are still much drier than the southern counties. So that's where we're standing right now. And then with our short-term drought has improved in the past few months, which is a great thing, especially compared to 3 months ago. So that's the short-term drought map that you see in the center there. A little bit more of the extreme drought that you have 3 months ago, and we've gotten rid of a little bit of that. So that's wonderful. Last summer, you may recall, and even last fall, were so exceptionally hot and dry. So it's helpful to get more precipitation this winter. Compared to a year ago, though, so you look at the map that we have on the other side, we've got a bit more short-term drought than we did a year ago. And you can see that that's across the state, especially in locations where our state forests are and along the rim. So, you know, looking at what we're experiencing here, this is kind of letting us know that we're not in as good a shape as we were last year. If you have time in May, our guest speaker in May is actually going to be Tiffany Davia from the Department of Forestry and Fire Management. So that'll be a good time to hear what they have to say. So just as Arizona, looking at our upper Colorado River Basin, we were able to pop to above median levels with the SWE, so the snow water equivalent. According to the Colorado River Basin Forecast Center, the water supply outlook has improved, which is excellent. This means that seasonal outlooks for the April to May, July volumes are also above normal in most locations. And Lake Powell is expected to be at 85% of normal volumes this summer. So that's a good thing as well. And looking here, kind of the 8 to 14 temperature and precipitation outlook, as I mentioned, we're expecting a bit more activity this March. So this weekend, we'll get a system that will come through. Hopefully, we'll get some precipitation from that. But keeping temperatures cooler helps our snowpack melt just a bit more slowly, which is a benefit to our water supply. So any precipitation we get is always welcome, and we'll see what happens with more troughing that's expected in April. Here's an interesting thing that's been going on that's been evaluated, and the forecast gets a little bit more firm every time we get closer. El Nino events, we know, always bring warmer, hotter sea surface temperatures, and that always brings hotter air temperatures. So forecasting outlooks are showing that we're favored into moving into neutral conditions for April to June. And then there's a 62% chance right now for moving into La Nina conditions June through August. So you can see the sea surface temperature anomalies have definitely been decreasing in the equatorial Pacific. So overall, 2024 so far, mostly wet, but also very warm. As we head into April, May, and June, those are the climatologically drier months of the year. So we know that we need to get hotter in May and June to start building our monsoon ridge. So fingers crossed that things work better this year than they did last year. So I'm really grateful to introduce our guest speaker today. She's done amazing things for Maricopa County, and I'm excited for you to meet Chandra Miller. If you've ever checked how much precipitation you just received on your mobile map, then I suspect you've checked the tool that Chandra built. So Chandra is the flood warning program specialist at the Flood Control District, Maricopa County. She's worked for the district at the flood warning branch 17 years, Chandra, 17 years.
Yeah.
And is responsible for developing and updating flood response plans, managing the flood response planning effort, monitoring the alert flood detection system. That's kind of what we're seeing here, and establishing and maintaining surveyed relationships at alert stations. She's in charge of web development, programming, public outreach, and assisting all products, messaging, and crediting with the flood warning branch. She's actually from Oregon. She received her BS degree in Earth Sciences from the Western Oregon University in Monmouth, and is a national certified floodplain manager. So we're grateful to have you. I'm going to let you go ahead, and I'm going to stop share and let you share. So hopefully that'll work.
Hopefully.
Here we go. All right, I'll let you do it.
All right. Share screen. PowerPoint here.
I know. This was me for our first slide.
Okay.
Welcome.
All right. Whoops. Can everyone see that? Yes?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just gotta make sure before I dive in. All right, so I have 15 minutes and I can always talk way longer than that about my job, but thank you for the introduction, Erin. I've known Erin ever since I started working here, so it's been a long, fun career, always running into her, and love to be able to do this. With her introduction, I am from Washington, Oregon, so Pacific Northwest. I moved down here after college in 2005, and I've been working for the county since 2006. But my best work has been done at Flood Control District. I've worn many hats. When I started working here, I was hired as a hydrologist, and just with my career strengths and what I was interested in, we were able to, as a branch, move the flood control district into being one of the leading alert networks and forward-facing rainfall data that not only the public uses, but all of the universities, studies, insurance. So there's a lot of people using our alert data. Um, with our flood control district, they don't have flood control districts everywhere. You can see on this map, the arid Southwest is, we have flash flooding. We have our monsoon rain. And then there's places like Ventura County. We have Houston, Denver. So there's various other flood control districts and alert networks around the country, but flood control district operates and maintains over 400 alert gauges, which is the largest alert network in the world. So we're very proud of that. So our flood warning branch is a very fun branch to work in because we wear a lot of hats. We're doing operational forecasting and messaging, but I'm also, if it's raining, I can go into the field, I'm surveying, I can do indirect measurements and pull in that hydrology aspect. We work a lot with MCDEM, so that's the Maricopa County Department of Emergency Management. They are dealing with big things like Palo Verde and nuclear drills and fire and COVID, like pandemics, public health. But if there's any flooding problems, we have for the right hand people for the flood information because we are the flood experts. So there's a lot of coordination in between the county networks, but also all of the cities and jurisdictions. Most of my main contacts with all of the other cities and jurisdictions around the county are with the emergency managers, the police chief, the fire chiefs. A lot of my trainings going out into the community are with those emergency responders, which is really fun for me to go out and talk to everyone. So our operational flood warning program we're watching the weather. We have a meteorologist. We're identifying what is happening in the field as far as rainfall or stream flow or weather. And then we're sending individual messages out from our branch into the community. So those aren't going to, our messages aren't going to the public, they're going to the emergency responders and the agencies. It's the National Weather Service's job to warn the public. So when you're getting that flash flood warning message on your cell phone, that's a separate message than what we're sending. Our stuff is going specifically to the fire department by a wash that has a stream gauge saying, in about an hour, you are going to have this much stream flow and this much discharge on this road. You need to make sure you shut that road down. And if there's a flood response plan or if there are homes or critical facilities that might be impacted by that flooding, we identify those and help the community respond to the flooding events. So I have additional maps that I'm going to show you guys for that to make that a little bit clearer. This is just showing our large alert network. We're at 412 alert stations right now. And we also have 7 pairs of flashing road signs. So those road signs, they're in the outskirts of the county and they work off of our alert network. So it's like a rain gauge, a stream gauge, or a status sensor that would like have a float if a certain amount of water was going through it. And those are put in locations where it takes a long time to get up there to barricade. So the idea is the lights will start going out prior to anyone shutting the road down. So hopefully no one will be driving across those flooded roadways. So we have the meteorologist. I kind of already covered all this. We forecast for particular zones. A lot of these zones are structured around our flood response plans. And you can get all this information off the website. These are just examples of our outlooks and our messages. But what is a flood response plan? That is one of my primary job responsibilities. And the flood response plan is just a formalized way to communicate within the departments. within flood control, county, any agency or any city that we have a flood response plan for. And it helps them know what to do and the action, like plan of action. And it really there's a lot of pieces in the puzzle, and it helps the police in Phoenix know if there's flooding on a particular area, just follow this flow chart and this is your responsibility. It's very important during an event when people can be very overwhelmed and there's a lot of things going on at a lot of different places to break it down individual step by step. This is what you're responsible for. We also do have emergency action plans, and those are specifically for our dams and structures. The county owns and operates 23 earthen dams around the county, and we have our alert gauges on those, and we are measuring the stage, how much water is behind it, the percent capacity. So that is another main purpose of our flood control district, is to monitor our structures. But these flood response plans and the emergency action plans are set in place. So there's a type of like ready, set, go. When is there problems starting at a location, and how do we escalate if the flooding increases? The flood response plans can be town-based, so like Wickenburg has one, or it can be watershed based. So like for example, we have a New River watershed and a Skunk Creek watershed. So it just kind of depends on the area. Excuse me. A lot of the watershed based ones that we have are in unincorporated Maricopa County. So there's different jurisdictions and freeways and everything that they can pass. But it's the flood response plans are location based. But the main thing for them is you need an alert protocol. So we have alarms on all of our alert gauges. That's rainfall alarm. So let's say if there's a inch and a quarter of rain in an hour, we will get an alarm. If a stream gauge reaches a certain threshold, we usually have 3 alarms on those. The first alarm is just like, hey, we're getting close to maybe like a foot of water. And then that gives us time to send people out to barricade a road prior to it getting over the foot, close to 2 feet, where we need to close it, because over 2 feet of water is kind of the saying, it's over 2 feet of water, it can float your car. And that's when it really gets dangerous. So we have the alert protocol that's telling us when things are happening. Those alarms are set up on a database that will wake us up at night. During monsoon season or events, we always have someone on call. So we make sure there's someone who will be awake, or will make sure their phone is very loud to wake them up if alarms start coming through. Then there's an action. If they get this alarm, what do I need to do? We identify any potential trouble areas, and that would be homes, structures in the way, roads that need to be closed. Those are trouble areas. And then critical times. How much time do I have once I get this alarm? Will the water get to this particular crossing? And so we can calculate the travel time of the water going from a stream gauge downstream just by the velocity, the travel, the distance, the slope. So that's built into all of our plans to help the emergency responders know and prioritize what they're going to do during a flood event. So this is kind of the ready, set, go. A lot of these flood response plans have a green, red, blue, and it's dependent on what they want, a green, orange, red, but a ready, set, go. Each of the levels is describing the likelihood of flooding and the intensity. The messages we send out from our branch, again, are an outlook, a message 1, 2, 3, which is the higher the message, the more the intensity. They're kind of like a flash, like a severe thunderstorm warning is kind of like the message 1. The message 3 is kind of like the National Weather Service flash flood warning. A lot of times those are going out at the same time. We have a lot of coordination with National Weather Service. Our products usually go out around the same time. Ours are just going out with very specific information to the city where the storm is over. So it's just providing them more information. And this is an example of one of those easy flow charts I was talking about. It's a lot when you look at it, but if you get a message from flood control and it says, hey, you are in the red alert, and I'm, let's say, a Wickenburg firefighter. Oh, if I'm a Wickenburg firefighter, then I don't have anything specific to do. I just need to, I don't have a specific task. But if I was public service, I would need to go monitor sunset wash. Then that's it. You know what you need to do. So that makes it easy. Again, alert protocol, the actions needed. And then the fun part is getting to make these maps, online maps and ArcPro maps that make it really easy for someone who's not the flood expert or a GIS expert to understand this. So this is where like kind of like urban planning and GIS kind of has come into my job also. But making the messaging really easy with the locations of concern, the flood waves, and where you need to be. So the dissemination of information is that flow chart. Here's just another example, this is closer up. But my main thing that has made these flood response plans really really easy for the agencies to follow along with is using ArcPro. I know that there's usually a lot of interest in all of the GIS work that I've done. I started exclusively using ArcPro instead of ArcMap in 2019. This is just a screenshot of it, but the organization of using ArcPro is so much better. You make one project and then you can have multiple maps or layouts within the project, which has made it so much easier because I can have 12 things in one project. It's all there. It's all connected to the same geodatabase. All the layer files are saved within there. So if you haven't made the switch, I highly encourage that. The cartography is a lot easier. A lot of these emergency operations centers, like really big wall maps. So it's basically the map that you make in a large format where in emergency, when they're sitting in their operations center, they can pull it out and see it in a big form. It's always important, you can go as digital as you want, but when there's a power outage and your phone doesn't work and the internet's down, you always have to rely on that map, even though people don't like printing them out anymore. It's part of that emergency operation brain that we all have to have. So I just wanted to show a couple other ways that I've used GIS. The map on the left is a travel time map. I like to use points. So from point 14 to point 20, the 100-year discharge is 6,000 CFS, and it will take 24 minutes for the water to get from that from the point 14 down to the Pinnacle Peak or Scottsdale Road. So again, it's giving that dispatcher, hey, you have about 20 minutes to get up to Scottsdale Road and shut that road. Please hurry. There's heat maps, so it makes it really easy to say if there is, and this was road crossing, so it's taking the amount of roads that are unbridged, that have water over the top of them, and kind of pinpointing the trouble areas with the idea of like, okay, where it's darker and more dense, why don't we get there first? So helping set a priority up. This is a map for Scottsdale, Indian Bend Wash specifically. It was created to be recreation, but with that, we have to make sure that when it rains or there's flooding, we are able to warn the public. So this is just a way for Scottsdale to come in You know where their emergency operations center is, you know where the golf courses and all the recreational trail crossings are. And this is all transposed onto an online map for them also. And then this is just I do all the work in like ArcPro and GIS, and then I just export it to a KMZ overlay for a Google map, or I put it in an AGOL feature layer and use the AGOL online maps as an Esri map based for the community to look at. And then just two more. These are examples of Wickenburg. This has a dam, the Cassandra Wash Dam. So that blue layer is actually incorporating if there was a dam failure, where the water could go. So that's incorporating the more emergency action plan if there was a dam failure. But the other parts are just the outflow from the dam. If there's water, there's a ungated principal outlet there. So that's just regular stream flow, a regular FEMA floodplain. So again, just letting you know, there's a few homes that are highlighted up by this My Father Retirement Ranch. These homes are within the floodplain. The retirement ranch is within the floodplain. So those are specific places where if it's flooding or they're going to have bad stream flow, that we will contact them from a branch and from McDem to let them know that what is happening. And then the other one is just travel time. So I have more examples, but it's time. So if anyone else wants to have any more information or ever wants to talk about the things I can do with GIS, you can always feel free to reach out to me. And I think I will end it there.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your expertise. Just amazing to have you working for Maricopa County and keeping everyone safe. I'm so grateful for that. I don't see any questions in chat, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now, if I can figure that. I mean, clicking, we're clicking. There we go. And